Today we're doing an alternator conversion on a TR3. This is what you should receive in your kit. You'll see the alternator, longer battery cable, ground cable, wiring kit with shrink wrap, wire ties, and 2 different style wires depending on what your car requires. New belt for the alternator, and the bolt and a spacer with various washers to make it align correctly. And there'll also be the instructions. This is a car we're going to be working on. One of the first things you would do is to disconnect the battery. And please keep all flames, no smoking. Gases from a battery can be very dangerous. This battery's already been converted to a negative system. We will show you later how that would go about when you do the alternator setup. One of the first things you'd want to do is read completely through all the directions so you fully understand what's involved in the process. You'll have your tools ready. So, grab your cup of coffee, sit down, and go through the directions. I'm showing this out of the car to make it clear. When you connect the new cable to the back of the alternator on this lug, you need to make absolutely sure that it's not touching anything, the outside of the case, or any other brackets in the car. This would obviously cause a dead short and be very bad. But this would be the correct positioning of it. The next thing to do is to remove the generator. The generator's down here. We'll be taking this bolt out. We'll be taking the wires off. Take the wires off properly. Do not cut the wires in any way because we will be reusing them. We'll be reusing this bracket. You can see in this picture, but we need to loosen this bolt and remove this bolt. Now, in order to get it out of the car, it's very likely going to require maybe taking the air cleaners off and probably taking the rod off here. Just pulling the pin, taking the pin out, setting it down should be enough to get it through. Loosening this bolt allows the generator to slide back, which will allow the belt to slide off. At this point, we have the bolts out, the belt off. We took the bracket off. This isn't always necessary, but in some cases, over the years they get stretched or the stampings just aren't the same, that we may need to grind a piece a little bit here. So, in any case, it's only one bolt to get it out of the way. Now, we have to reach down, it's hard to see, right down in there is where the long bolt is that holds it on. Okay, I believe we can sneak the generator out through the front here. Now that we have the bolts out, you just got to be careful. And again, make sure your battery is disconnected. Right. Many cars are going to be different from over the years, different people doing different things. But in this case, we took it out. This is the lower bracket for the generator with the generator removed. We will be taking this spacer out and putting the spacer that comes in with the kit in here. While the generator's out, it's the best time to take the old belt out and put a new belt in. It's a very tight fit down by the lower pulley. We actually had to take the motor mount bolt and jack the engine up slightly to sneak it past the front pulley. This is showing how you will install the spacer and the bolt in the car. Put the bolt through with a washer here, the bracket will go in between, the spacer in between the bracket and the nut on the other end, the nylock. Now you will be doing your adjusting here in front of the bracket to shim the alternator forward and back to get the pulley in alignment. Also on this, wanted to mention that occasionally the castings come through with a little too much material here and they may need to be ground down a little bit. That's why this is where you're going to vary to make the alignment of the pulley. The alignment of the pulley is very critical, and for whatever reason all these cars are a little bit different. Alternator castings are a little bit different, so we take up the slack right there. This is where you'll be connecting back to the system. Battery cable here. The alternators are made for various applications, so they come with an extra bolt here. This can be discarded, this one here. We don't need that one in our usage for these cars. Another thing to note, these cars came through, they were made for right-hand drive, and in the States, left-hand drive. And the brackets are still on various cars for the right-hand drive. Sometimes they're in the way, usually they're not. Very rarely they are, but if they are, you may need to modify that or just trim it off. It's not relevant to this car. It is not an easy fit to get the alternator down in there. You may have to remove various other parts, come up from the bottom, or whatever's unique to your car to get it in there without damaging anything else in the process. We had to take a few parts off and managed to squeeze it in. It's very easy to make the bracket fit. Just flatten it with a good hammer. Take the bends out of it. And it will align, and you'll put the bolt through the back. Now that we've pulled these out of the way, again we will be tying these off. This wire will be removed. We won't be using it. We'll insulate it and tie it back. The two heavy brown wires up here will be joined together using the thick wire in the kit. Again, we'll be insulating these and tying them off. Down here, these are the wires that used to go to the generator. The heavy wire we won't be using. The thin wire, in this case it's yellow with a green tracer, we will be tying to the white wire. We'll be using a connector on there and insulating it, and then we'll be plugging the plug back in. The red wire goes to the terminal, and that's that. These are the wires we have to change. This is an early car, so we need to remove the yellow with a green tracer and the thin yellow solid wire. We'll be using our supplied jumper to connect these two together. There's also some shrink wrap supplied that we'll be putting over that to isolate them. Some electrical tape, but you don't want those to ground out. Yeah, we're almost complete. The alternator's in and the pulley's aligned. This is going to be one of your most critical parts of the job, making sure the alternator's in line with the water pump and the belt isn't on an angle. If it is, it will wear or throw and it could cause damage. Over here we have the wires insulated and they're tied out of the way. We're not using the control box anymore. This car has had some interesting wiring done to it, but we have everything routed so it's not going to be in the way of the chokes. It's tied down out of the way. And it should be ready to go. We'll be starting it shortly. We just have to put back other parts that we've taken off, and it will be complete. Okay, now we've reconnected the battery. Turning the key to the on position should have the ignition light burn brightly. Now once we start it, it should go out. That will be your indicator. Make sure it's not in gear.
It's out of gear.
Okay. The light goes out. This car still is going to get a tune-up, but the belt's in alignment, the alternator is running properly, and most importantly, there's no smoke coming out. So we're going to shut it down. And that's how you install your alternator kit from Triumph Rescue. And here is the finished product. Doing this alternator conversion should take you between a couple hours and up to a day, depending on your skills and tools. We did on this car just about every problem that you could have run into. We had to shape the alternator, grind the spacer, remove the steering bracket, and of course the more you have off of your engine, the easier it would be. If you're doing carbs at one point, you might want to plan ahead to do that at the same time, and it would certainly save some time and effort.